Welcome back to TNN. I'm Biff Belfry. Our top story for you tonight is all about what's in your refrigerator. Everyone knows that food is fuel, but is it also poison? I'll be going through the data and conducting interviews with experts close to the issue to come up with a definitive answer on what's okay to throw away. Before we take a look at what in your food could be killing you, I have some numbers that should help to get an idea of the issue that we as Americans are facing when it comes to food waste. Each year in the United States, over 100 billion pounds of food is wasted, thrown out before its best-by date for a variety of reasons. Now, this isn't to say that all Americans are contributing to this problem, as food waste can happen at any stage of food production or distribution, such as the distributors or the retailers, or even before that. While the big companies do make up the bulk of food waste, American consumers still account for about 40% of it per year, which tallies out to around 42 billion pounds of food waste coming from households. There are lots of programs in place to try to reduce the amount of food waste from the production, distribution, and retail facets of the industry. But what can we do to help the issue? I interviewed Gertie McRuckus, spokeswoman for a nonprofit aimed at reducing consumer food waste in the U.S., who gave us a few tips on how to reduce household food waste. Thanks for sitting down with me, Gertie. So 42 billion pounds, that is not a small amount of food. What can we do as just an average American consumer to try and reduce that number?
Now, Biff, I am inclined to agree with you on that front.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know what I've seen? You know what I've seen in these folks' kitchens? Someone will take a banana,
Mm-hmm.
right? Perfectly fine banana. Maybe it's got a little brown spot here or there,
Right.
but that's what God intended. And these people, they'll take this banana and they'll throw the whole thing away, right in the trash can.
Crazy.
Now, what in the Sam Hill is that all about? Because you can take a knife that you have in your kitchen,
mm-hmm.
and you can cut off that brown part, and you can eat the rest of that banana.
Absolutely.
Or you can make banana bread. Now, who don't like banana bread? Who doesn't like banana bread? It's delicious. It's the best way to use a brown banana.
Absolutely. Agreed.
And really, that can go for any food that you have in your kitchen. You know what I mean? Let's say you're making a fine pot roast, right?
Okay.
You got all the tops from your carrots, your peels from your carrots, maybe.
Okay. Uh-huh.
You know, stuff that you don't really want to eat.
Sound like a tasty pot roast.
It is. I make a mean pot roast,
all right.
Biff, and you should come try it sometime.
I absolutely will.
But I tell you what, you take those carrot tops, and instead of putting them in your trash, you put them in a pot, you put some water in that pot, and you boil it down, you make yourself a fine stock.
Oh, all right.
You can make soup out of that, and you can do the same thing with chicken bones. Really, any kind of animal carcass, you can take and break it down, and you can make whatever kind of stock your little heart desires. There's also...
Great.
Compost bin. You can get yourself a compost bin. They're not that expensive, and you can really use anything. You can get a tub for all you like. Put all your food scraps in the goddamn compost instead of the trash. Now, what good are they going to do rotting away in a landfill when you could be growing your own garden?
Well, that is a fantastic point.
Thank you, Biff. No, thank you, Biff. And another thing, again, with all this food waste, we've got, God made seasons. Right, and he made plants that grow in those seasons. And now you have people...
If you subscribe to that.
And I do subscribe to that, Biff. I do subscribe to that. But you can walk down to the store and you can go buy something that was grown right here in town if you want to. And instead, you got people buying all these crazy fruits and vegetables. You got things out of season. You know how much energy it takes to grow something out of season? You need a greenhouse. You need all these ways to transport. And it don't even taste as good.
Uh-huh.
All right. And one more thing, you have all these people cooking up a fine meal. A fine meal that could last you for days if you wanted it to. And these people...
Okay.
Pardon me, Biff. You see, these people, they cook up that meal and they eat it that night and then they throw it in the goddamn garbage.
Right.
Now, what is that all about? See, in every single modern American kitchen, there is a fine invention. And that invention is called a freezer. You go and you take your leftovers and put them in that freezer and you eat them tomorrow, instead of throwing it away. Also, you got all these people who they trust these big grocery stores, you know what I mean, when they put that their best buy date on that.
Right.
You got a nose and you got eyes, right, Biff?
I do.
I got a nose and I got eyes. Pardon me, but I think that most people have a nose and they have eyes.
I would be inclined to agree with you.
I think you know what bad milk smells like, don't you?
Oh, yes, I
So if your if your milk is 1 day out of date and it smells just fine, are you gonna go and dump it?
Not me.
Now, why in the goddamn Sam Hill would you gonna do that? When it's perfectly good milk, just use your nose and just use your eyes. And what's more, I'm about to wrap up here, Biff. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you.
But of course, Biff. But if you are so inclined, back to my point earlier about the out of season fruits and vegetables, if you are so inclined to have your veggies and your fruits out of season, I get it. We're particular. We all have our favorites. You can pickle them. You can can them. You know what I mean? You have something that's about to go bad. You can do the same thing. Preserve it, and then you can eat it later before throwing it away.
Well, those were some very good tips, Gertie.
Thank you, Biff.
Thank you for joining me today, and
Thank
I
you,
hope
Biff.
you at home learned a few things.
I
know
sure do,
I
too.
certainly did.
I am sick of seeing all this food waste, all this perfectly good food when there's starving children out there.
I agree. While food waste is a big problem in the United States, a lot of what is thrown away is due to protective measures to stop outbreaks of foodborne illnesses. Salmonella, E. coli, and botulism are just some of the potentially deadly diseases that you could contract if your food were improperly handled. But this is all stuff that would hopefully be found and taken care of before it gets anywhere near your home. So what can the average American consumer do to protect themselves against foodborne illnesses when it's them preparing the food? Joining me today is Dr. Dirt McGirt, who works in a lab on the Colorado State University campus. Thanks for joining me, Doctor.
You're welcome. I have to state for legal reasons that I do not hold any kind of medical doctorate or a play a hated designation, as I like to call it. And
Right. Classic.
Number two, that's not my name.
I just read what they give me, man. I'm sorry.
No worries there. Well, where would you like to start?
Well, since this is aimed at the average American consumer, why don't we start with steps that can be taken to protect yourself from foodborne illnesses in the home?
Sure thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we
Right.
start with some of the major considerations for the bacteria that I want to focus on for this? We could start with talking about Salmonella enterica typhi, a very serious foodborne illness that has a reservoir in the intestinal tract of humans, poultry, and cattle. So farm animals, any food that's coming into contact with the fecal matter of farm animals and humans can be infected with this very, very deadly bacteria.
You heard it here first, folks. Keep your food away from poop.
Away from poop. That's right. But what you have to understand about this is that this bacteria can exist in raw poultry, raw eggs. And that means that the first and most important step that you're going to want to take in preventing this is thoroughly cooking your meats. I always suggest using a meat thermometer for anything you're going to handle.
Of course.
Furthermore, because we do know that farms are locations where fecal matter exists, you're going to want to thoroughly wash your vegetables and fruits before eating them. One of the things that I want you to understand about this bacteria that can cause stomach cramps, it can cause diarrhea in a severe way, and it can cause fever. It can get more serious. It can cause sepsis, which is a bacterial infection of the blood, which can be extremely lethal. Now, this is a facultative anaerobe, meaning that it can exist in a lack of presence of oxygen. Another consideration is that it can grow in environments between 5 and 45 degrees Celsius. I mean, you know, your average American refrigerator might exist at 4 degrees Celsius, just below this range. One important consideration to make is that you're going to want to refrigerate your foods shortly after you plan on. You know, if you have leftovers, you want to refrigerate them quickly. You don't want them sitting on counters where they can grow this kind of bacteria.
Absolutely not.
Another thing I want to get into is very serious bacteria, Clostridium botulinum.
Okay.
This creates a botulism toxin that can be deadly. Are you okay?
It's just my stomach. Probably something I ate. Carry on, please.
Well, the thing about this toxin is that it can be deadly in the amounts of 1.3 to 2.1 nanograms per kilogram of body weight. That is a minuscule amount of this toxin that can kill you. Now, this is a acetylcholine production disruptor, meaning that it can cause relaxation of the body up to amounts that prevent the contraction of the diaphragm. This can stop the breathing of a human being. How do you stop one from getting this? First of all, improperly canned foods are a big problem. It can be caused from wounds, But more likely is that somebody's canning their own foods and storing it in a dark cupboard at room temperature. Now, this is an anaerobic bacteria, but it has a certain property to it, superoxide dismutase, that allows it to exist with trace amounts of oxygen.
It's very interesting stuff, Doctor. Please,
do you realize
please
that you
carry on.
You could be experiencing a very serious medical condition right now?
No, it's nothing. It's fine. It's fine. I get the tummy rumblies from food all the time.
I see. Well, another thing with botulism is you really don't want to be giving honey to infants. The lethal dose of this toxin is much lower for an infant, and trace amounts of it can be found in honey. You just want to avoid giving honey to infants at all costs. I don't suggest canning your own foods unless you really know what you're doing. But I want to talk about something very serious indeed. Escherichia coli 0157H7, a Shiga toxin producing bacteria. This can be found in the intestines of cows, sheep, and goats, and it can cause bloody diarrhea, vomiting, and extreme abdominal cramps. It can lead to hemolytic uremic syndrome. Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay?
I'll be all right. The show must go on. Continue.
I've watched you vomit up a full gallon of
You don't understand. Not once in my 15 years on air have I ended a broadcast early. Go on.
Just say a little prayer, get your money, man. Life goes on.
I'm hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it. Let it take you away and be hopeful, hopeful.